I didn't plan it this way, but we've got Missouri on our mind today. And you have just put out some really important information about some things that are happening in Missouri with regards to their access to reproductive justice. Apparently abortion's not so bad. I don't know. How did we get here? What's happening in Missouri, and how did we get into this weird twist of fate?
Well, Missouri still hates abortion, not the whole state, but lawmakers, Missouri Republicans still hate abortion. But what they didn't expect when they spent literally decades enacting abortion restrictions and trying to destroy Roe is that it would awaken this pro-choice sleeping giant, right? And so in November of 2024, voters approved Amendment 3, right? And Amendment 3 enshrines abortion rights up to the point of fetal viability into the Constitution. And I spoke with Mallory Schwartz of Abortion Access Missouri. And because the people who drafted Amendment 3 knew that Missouri wasn't going to act right, they made a standard of judicial review, of reviewing these restrictions so high that it's nearly impossible to overcome, right? So now, according to Amendment 3, any restrictions that deny, interfere, restrict, or there's another word, delay access to abortion is presumed invalid. Presumed invalid. And the and you know strict scrutiny, right? Strict scrutiny is compelling government interests, least restrictive means. So the only compelling interest that will suffice to overcome this presumption, according to this amendment that voters passed, is if the restrictions advance patient health and safety according to widely accepted medical practices and clinical standards. So that means no bullshit junk scientists telling you that, abortion is going to cause you to want to commit suicide, or that it's going to give you mental health issues or cause you to become a crackhead. Like anything that they are saying advances patient health and safety has to be true according to widely accepted practices. And of course, they don't have that sort of science, right? They've been using junk scientists since forever. And so now they're in court saying, well, when the voters passed Amendment 3, during the campaign, the Amendment 3 campaigners told them that they were going to be restoring Roe. So that means we can ignore the plain language of this amendment where all restrictions are presumed invalid. And instead, we're just going to go ahead and resurrect Roe. That is what they are arguing. So it's not because they respect Roe or they want to give the people their abortions. They just want to find any way to continue to enact these trap laws, these waiting periods, these ultrasound requirements, informed consent requirements, all the stuff that we've been fighting about for 10 years, including stuff that the Supreme Court already struck down under the Planned Parenthood Casey standard, which was undue burden. Y'all remember Casey, right? It was the case that said if you're going to enact restrictions, they can't pose a substantial obstacle in the place of people seeking abortions. They're not even arguing for Casey. They want to go back to Roe, even though Casey overturned Roe like in 1992. Lurie, it is insane and also hilarious. And I know I'm rambling, but I'm not done because you're going to love this bit. In Ohio voters passed a similar reproductive freedom amendment, right? An Ohio state court judge said that because of the amendment passed in Ohio, that the right to an abortion is on par with the right to have a gun.
Oh,
yeah. So it may be with any fair reading of Missouri's amendment, which is the same as basically the same as Ohio's. Missouri Republicans may have backed themselves into a corner by trying to destroy Roe because voters woke up and they were like, nah, we're going to make it much easier to get an abortion. And a judge in Ohio has said it's kind of the same as getting a gun. So that sort of analysis, in my view, translates to Missouri. So we'll see what the Missouri Supreme Court does. But right now, in this moment, like this is something we can be happy about, and we can it's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is goddamn Republicans to stay out of your uterus.
10,000 spoons, all you need is a knife. Oh my God. Oh
exactly.
Wait, we're on, and my audio is messed up. We're on Zoom, so I'm trying not to laugh too hard, but I am dying from laughter behind this because Imani, first of all, you never get to come on and we have good news. Like we come on and we sad and we upset and we fighting and we cussing and we in struggle mode. You mean to tell me these people overreached so bad that right now the people in Missouri was like, I bet got you. What we gonna do is ensure that you can never come for our abortion rights again. And they did that so well that Missouri Republicans prefer Roe versus Wade to what we
Yeah.
have. But wait, the idea that in Ohio, which is a state that I have come to understand really appreciates its right to carry laws, really appreciates the Second Amendment, to make abortion and the right to have an abortion on par with owning a gun. That is raising it. That matters more in a MAGA world than if Jesus, the blonde hair, blue eyed version, which is the mythology, but that matters more to them than if Jesus had said abortion is okay, because you can't take my guns.
Right.
And if you're abortion is on par with gun rights, that might be the language that we should have needed used all the time. This is amazing.
Right. Well, this is what I was saying, right after Roe fell in June 2022. First of all, as soon as Roe fell, Missouri Republicans had an abortion ban, a near total abortion ban with a trigger provision that said as soon as Roe falls, this law goes into effect. So literally within an hour after Roe fell, Missouri banned abortion. They were the first state to do it, right? They were also the first state for voters to come back and say, nah, we're not doing this. We're going to protect abortion rights in the Constitution. And then they're also the first state to suffer this sort of legislative retaliatory attack on the will of the people, with Republicans being like, actually Roe's okay. Oh, and also, all of these restrictions that we have, they don't even trigger the scrutiny under Amendment 3 because mifepristone is really dangerous and abortion causes suicide, and all of the same nonsense crap that they've been spewing for a decade. They're just saying the same exact things, except for now their arguments aren't enough to surpass this, what some people are calling ultra strict scrutiny standard that is in Amendment 3. Because it's not just a compelling government interest. The voters said this is the only compelling interest that you can set forth, and then the only way to approve that compelling interest, or to prove, excuse me, that compelling interest, is to show that actual scientists, actual OBGYNs, not like the pro-life society of obstetrics and gynecologists, like ACOG, right? The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, actual scientists, they have to be the ones that say these practices are standard. And so now Missouri is just scrambling. And I find it hilarious. It's hilarious to me.
I absolutely love this. Now, if we're seeing this in Missouri and we're seeing it in Ohio, and Ohio feels like they told Missouri, hold my beer, hold my gun, because we're gonna elevate this. Is this something that we could be replicating in additional states where there are trigger laws and Republicans are sort of sitting in the kingdom, or it is a kingdom because they don't regulate anything with the penis. But is this something that could be replicated even beyond Missouri and Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, it's already the standard in Kansas, right? I think the court in Kansas in a case was the one the first to use this phrase, like ultra strict scrutiny. But absolutely, right? I mean, the whole point of Dobbs was to send the abortion question back to the states. And now it's back in the states. And these Republican lawmakers are realizing that people actually like reproductive autonomy and reproductive freedom, right? And so and it's really interesting because I talked to one of the people who was at the table when they were drafting Amendment 3. And if you could, like, I've been covering the shenanigans in Missouri for a decade, right? The trigger law ban that went into effect. First, they tried to enact it as what my colleague Jess Mason-Piccolo calls a Russian nesting doll ban, right? Because at the time, the Roe was still good law. So what they did is that they banned abortion at 8 weeks, and then if they went to court and the court said no, this is unconstitutional under Roe, okay, fine, then we ban abortion at 10 weeks. They go to court, no, okay, 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 18 weeks. They just kept upping the weeks, just trying to find a gestational ban that the court would accept under Roe. And then once Roe fell, Missouri was like, bet, near total abortion ban. And then the voters were like, no, actually, we want all of the abortions. We want people to be able to decide. And it's not just they said we want abortions. They said that they want reproductive freedom, which includes childbirth, right? So they have the freedom to have children or the freedom to not have children. And you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like Missouri voters are down with reproductive justice. And that is a framework that was developed by Black women, Black people, right? And so the fact that Missouri, which is a state that has led the way along with like Texas and Alabama when it comes to restricting abortion, the fact that voters in Missouri are now leaning towards reproductive justice, that is huge. And that means that campaigners, pro-choice campaigners, RJ campaigners in other states can begin to replicate this. And, talking to Mallory Schwartz and talking about, the effort that they've put in, I mean, they're exhausted, right? Like Missouri has got them just running around willy-nilly. But they are stalwart in their belief that reproductive autonomy is crucial and a human right. And so they've just been fighting and winning. And so, we'll see what the Missouri Supreme Court says. I mean, it's unclear, right? The court is conservative, but at the same time, the court has ruled in their favor when it came to Missouri lawmakers and Missouri Republicans' efforts to keep Amendment 3 off the ballot or to increase the number of signatures they had to get to put it on the ballot, right? They were really trying to keep this off the ballot. And now we know why, because voters in Missouri were like, we want abortion. We want childbirth. We want reproductive autonomy. And that's the best news I've heard literally since June 2022.
Oh my God, this is amazing. If we were in the studio, I would have Amina play applause and air horns, but it's just going to disrupt the Zoom feed. So, but imagine you're hearing, wow. Shout out to Amina.